Happy Thursday, FlossTube. Hello, crafty friends. My name's Caroline. Welcome back to my channel. And it's my first day headed over to the new space for you know, getting things started. We got the keys yesterday. So John and his partner Peter are there right now. They are starting the demolition, ripping out carpets and all that kind of good stuff. So I'm gonna go pick up some coffees and head over and see what furniture has been left behind that I can repurpose for my own use. So here we go. I'm pretty excited. Okay, here we are. Talking to my FlossTube friends. So this area here is going to be turned into the bathroom, right in off the main entrance door there for me. So they're going to split this area in half, and the little bathroom's going to go right here, and then they'll put a new doorway where this window is to lead out in the hallway, and then this door will remain for the bathroom. And here is going to be, there's going to be a tiny little kitchen put on the other side of the wall of the new bathroom area. And this is going to be kind of the lunch school room. Nicholas is going to hang out here with me for the next couple of months while he finishes his virtual school. The guys have already been working on ripping up the carpet. There's John. What is he doing? Better not film that in case something bad happens. I should be ready. This area is going to be closed off. So that door, this will be a fire door for the tenant that will be on that side of this space. And there's my guy.
I have a question for you.
Oh, okay. I'll pause. Well, I did more than pause. It's Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. Yeah, I did start recording yesterday because I knew I was going to head in, and thought I would add that footage to today. But then I can't even remember what happened yesterday, what the question was about. I think it was about painting the doors. And then we got into that conversation, which led to 10 other things that needed to be taken care of. And then I didn't record anything else. And today's Friday. I haven't gone back in today. John is still there working on the rest of the little bit of demolition work that has to happen. And the painting started today. And apparently the flooring is going to be starting to go in on Monday. I'm having it's a vinyl click floor that looks like wood. It looks like a, you know, it looks like a faux hardwood floor, but it's click laminate. So should be fairly easy to care for, and it should also be very good for not showing Luna scratch marks. So very, very durable. Okay, so yes, it is Friday. I don't know that I introduced myself at the beginning of this video, so if you're new here, my name is Caroline, and I'm glad you're here. On Fridays, I typically, well, I guess over the years, Friday's been kind of a mixed bag of crafty goodness, and the latest thing to happen around this channel on Fridays is that I read some crafting stories that have been emailed to me. I share viewers' stories with you. So if you have a drink, a coffee, or some tea, or maybe it's, you know, maybe it's wine o'clock and it's time for a glass of wine, and I have a few emails here to share with you. I have coffee this afternoon, which is usually my drink of choice, and my dog beside me. Luna's beside me. Nicholas is just finishing up school. It is 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon, so Nicholas is just finishing his day of remote learning. Sarah is, well, Sarah's off doing her own thing. She's pretty much a grown-up now, so she has her own, she keeps to her own schedule. All right, so today's first funny crafting story comes from Linda S. And Linda writes the following. Good afternoon. I'm enjoying the stories and find them amazing. Thanks for putting a smile on my face. And that's really, I so enjoy this. Today has been such a full day. I have been going full tilt since 5 a.m. this morning, and I didn't sleep well last night, partially because I'm just so excited. I'm so excited about everything that's going on. I'm having trouble sleeping. So it's been a really, really full day today, and to be able to sit down and just chat with you for a few minutes with a cup of coffee, I've been looking forward to this all day. So Linda, I'm glad yours is the first story today. All right, so her story has a title. It says, Pine cones are great for outside bonfires. All right. The story starts off hot and ends up clean. Many years ago, I went through a stage of making pine cone wreaths. During a trip north of Kingston, so Kingston, I'm assuming, is Kingston, Ontario, which is here in the province where I live. Road beside me today is quite noisy, so sorry about that. It is late on a Friday afternoon. I guess everybody's in a bit of a hurry to get where they're going. So during a trip north of Kingston, I gathered these large pine cones from a white pine tree. They were dripping in sap. Oh, there's a picture attached. Okay. Late on a Friday afternoon, I had the brilliant idea to put these cones in the oven to have them opened up and melt the sap to make a glaze over the cones. Pine cones are to be put in a low temperature oven, which I did, until I became impatient and decided to speed up the process to start dinner. This is the hot part of the story. I turned the oven to 500 degrees broil. What happened next was the beginning of the disaster. My elderly blind dog started crying to be let out, so I left the stove to let him out. However, I didn't go back to the oven. I remembered that I hadn't cleaned the toilet. So I went to clean the toilet. Since the door to the small bathroom is off a narrow hall, I shut the door and didn't realize that there was a problem until the smoke detectors in the house went off. When I opened the door, the house was filling up with smoke. From the kitchen door, I could see flames shooting out from the sides and the top of my stove. Oh my goodness. My two small children were in the basement playing. They had decided to put all their winter clothing on. That sounds like something kids would do. They could hardly move up the stairs with all the layers. I told them to go a few doors down to my friend Karen's house. Karen operated a babysitting business from her home, and when my children went banging at her door, screaming that their house was on fire, she was running bath water for one of the kids. She told the older kids to watch the younger kids and came running to my house with a vision of me lying unconscious on the floor. As she came running, she remembered her bath water was still running. Luckily, my neighbor came out and went running to Karen's house to turn the water off and watch the kids. By then I had phoned the fire department, and the cones were completely burnt to nothing, and there were no longer flames coming from the oven, just a pile of ash. The fire department arrived, and by then I was standing outside with the crowd of people that had gathered, pretending I didn't live there. Well, my secret didn't last long when a fireman came out and asked if the lady cooking pine cones for supper was in the crowd. This was before cell phones, and I had to phone a dispatcher to pass a message to my husband. I explained that we had had a small fire, and the children and I were at Karen's while all the windows had to stay open to help get rid of the smoke smell. He had a similar story when his wife caught a turkey on fire. He then asks what I was cooking for dinner. The dispatcher put out the message for everyone to hear that my husband's dinner of pine cones had caught fire, and the fire department was called, but everyone was safe. Everyone ended their work week with a good laugh. The embarrassment didn't end there. It was in our small local newspaper. Karen's brother-in-law played baseball with the volunteer fire department, and it was told over a few beers 6 months later. My son's soccer coach was a firefighter, and he had a good laugh when he realized who my husband's wife was. Apparently, the firemen had a good laugh over the situation. this is the clean part. We had been looking for a new stove, and I got my new stove. However, the best thing to happen, I had my house completely cleaned. Carpets, drapes, sofa, walls, and everything in my kitchen cupboards and drawers. Fall cleaning was done in one day from a restoration company and didn't cost anything. I seriously advise against trying this method to get your house cleaned. P.S. The dog was not left outside during all this commotion. Karen bundled him up and took him to her place where he was warm and safe. That was really funny. I'm really sorry I'm laughing so hard at your misfortune, but I can picture every moment of your story, and that is classic. That's just classic. Thank you for sharing that, Linda. That was really, really funny. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm gonna just have a little drink of my coffee here. Okay, so here we go. This next story is from Anna. Okay, and Anna writes, "Hi, here is my funny crafting story from a few years ago. I had been knitting for a few years and found the Sloth series and learned how to make mittens for the first time. I was so excited and used bulky wool yarn that would be nice and warm for our cold Yukon winters. So I made mittens for everyone as Christmas gifts and used my hand to measure the size. I excitedly watched my sister open her gifts, and when she tried it on and quietly put it away. Months later, the mittens came up and she told me that they were way too big for her. When she tried it on, the mittens were big enough that she could flap her hands like a seal. I will never live that down. I get teased all the time about seal mittens now. Over the last year, I have made 3 pairs of trigger mittens for my guy, but he teases me about the seal mittens constantly. So I traced his hand on paper and used that to make his mittens. Turns out my hands are a bit longer than his too, but his hands are wider." Laughing out loud. Seal mittens and watching them flap was priceless. And then she says, edit, I made her new mittens and used adult small instead of the medium size. It was tiny. I couldn't even put more than 3 fingers in the wrist, but they fit her perfectly and she loves them. Yeah, I love that, because it's always so funny. My friend Louise Patterson, Wildflower Wool, my knitting friend, and she's also she's a knitting designer and instructor, and she's kind of my go-to, and she's always telling me that how the importance of gauge swatches, you know, to make sure that what you're knitting is actually going to fit. And I am always teasing her by saying, it'll fit someone. It might not fit the intended person, but it will fit someone. So thank you, Anna. That was really funny. Big mittens. Okay, so this next story is from Andrea. And Andrea writes, "Hello, Caroline. My name is Andrea, and I'm not sure if it's a funny story or not, but here it goes. I learned to cross stitch as a teenager a long time ago and then lost interest in the craft and took a long break, about 10 years. About 3 years ago, I decided to give cross stitch another try and bought a full coverage kit. When I got the kit, I was eager to start and made sure to start from the middle, since it was how I got taught to start a project. I was ecstatic of the progress I was making in the piece, to the point that I was stitching every day on it. After finishing a page, I was about to move on to the following page. I realized I was stitching the whole thing in the wrong direction of the fabric." Oof. We all felt that one, didn't we? After a whole page of a full coverage piece. Oh boy. I was irritated by my horrible mistake, especially since it took me a month to stitch just one page. Needless to say, I frogged all the work and it is sitting in my stash. Let's just say I learned to never start from the middle on any project and to grid my fabric. Wishing you all a wonderful and safe week. Yeah, so, you know, I know lots of people start in the middle and lots of people start in the corner. It's where you start is kind of, it becomes a bit of a personal preference. When I first started cross stitching, I think the first few patterns that I did, I started in the middle, and now I will still come across the odd chart where starting in the middle makes sense. Like the mandala charts, you know, like an ink circles mandala or something like that. I would generally start in the middle and then work my way out. My preferred start on a project is generally the lower left corner, just where I like to start, just in the lower left corner. And so whenever a designer like Jacob, Modern Folk Embroidery, has these stitch alongs that come out, and they always start in the top left corner. It always throws me a little bit because I don't want to start in the top left corner. I want to start in the bottom left corner. So it feels wrong that I have to start in the top left corner. And I know it's kind of like reading a book, right? You start at the top and then you read your way down. I don't know why. I really like to start in the bottom left, and then I like to work my way up. Not everything, just most of the time. So that's funny. But Andrea, I'm very sorry about your big mistake. I think we have all been there before. It is a terrible, terrible feeling. And after all of your beautiful work on a whole page, that's very disappointing. So I'm not surprised it's still in your stash. Maybe you'll give it another go one day. Okay, this next story is from Teal. And Teal writes, "Hi Caroline, I've enjoyed hearing everyone's funny stories, so here's mine. I have 3 adult children, 2 sons and a daughter. They all grew up knowing my love." Sometimes my camera just shuts itself off. It's probably just had enough of me. So let's take a sip of coffee and then we'll try Teal's story again. Okay, so I have 3 adult children, 2 sons and a daughter. They all grew up knowing my love for stitching, but I've never received a stitchy gift from any of them until 2 years ago. For Christmas, my daughter gave me a needle minder. I was so touched that she gave me a stitching gift and that she even knew what it was used for. I got teary-eyed and had all the feels. I asked, "How did you know about needle minders, what they are used for, and that I would love it?" She said, "Mom, do you realize how often you struck fear in us kids? We'd walk into the family room and you'd yell at us, 'Don't walk over there, I lost my needle.'" We were also afraid walking around the house thinking that we'd end up with a needle in our foot. Oops, bad mom. She then said she was on Etsy looking for something else and saw a needle minder. She wondered what it was, and after reading about it, she knew that she had to get me a needle minder for Christmas. It's a hedgehog because she knows I collect them. She said, "Too bad these didn't exist when we were kids, but now Dad doesn't have to worry about stepping on a needle." So there you go. Thanks for sharing this from Teal. Now, that's really, again, another one of those things that I think we can all relate to, because even just the other night, I knew I had 2 needles. I knew that I had 2 needles on the back of my, this is why I like to use, I don't often use the front part of the needle minder. I mean, sometimes I will if it's there and I, you know, thoughtlessly put it on there. But I actually tend to prefer the part of the needle minder that doesn't have something on it. I like the little round metal disc. That's my favorite part of the needle minder, because it's the part that has the most magnetization. And so I had 2 needles, and they were on the, I was using one of my fabric button ones, and I had put them on the fabric button side instead of the silver, the magnet part. And then the next time I went to grab my needle, there was only one there. And I thought, uh-oh, I knew there were 2 needles there, and now there was only one. And where had it gone? Because the carpet that we have downstairs in our living room is, it actually used to be my husband's grandparents' rug. It was their dining room rug, and it's really old, and it's heavily, it's like an old, you know, Persian carpet. It's really, really old. The design is really, you know, it's quite dark, so it's hard to see stuff on it. And then I could not find this needle. I couldn't find the needle anywhere. And then I happened to, you know, I think I had a hair or something on my shirt, and I found my needle. It had somehow flown off my stitching, or I'd caught it with my sleeve or something, and it had worked its way into the top of my shirt. So I felt grateful that I'd found it and that one of my kids or the dog wasn't going to step on it. But yeah, those needles, tricky needles. I used to have a friend, her name was Audrey. She passed away a few years back. And those of my local stitching friends, if you're watching this, you all know and loved Audrey just like I did. She was just a part of our group, and she passed away a few years back, and boy, I miss her. I miss her. And Audrey would come. We used to have stitching afternoons. This was way back when this started when Nicholas was a baby. And, you know, once every couple of weeks or so, I'd have a couple of friends over. We'd sit at the table and we'd stitch during Nicholas's nap time. And Audrey would come. And she used to drop so many needles. Audrey dropped so many needles. It was known that after when my kids came home and I would say, Audrey's been here today, they knew not to go near. She always sat in the same chair, and they didn't go near that part of the dining room table until I'd had a really thorough go around under her chair and all the way around, looking for dropped pins and needles, because she always dropped needles. And oh, that's such a nice memory, Teal. Thank you for that. I miss Audrey. Oh, she was just such a wonderful woman. Okay, all right. Next up we have Vicki. Okay, so we have Vicki K from northwestern Wisconsin, and she says, here's my funny story. My 6-year-old granddaughter wanted me to teach her to cross stitch. So I purchased a kit that included a wooden board with the pattern printed on it in color. It also contained yarn and a plastic needle. As I was showing her, I had a hard time threading the yarn into the needle. Old trick, I licked it. As she was stitching, I looked away. Soon I heard her cough and gag. When I looked back at her, she spit out about an inch length of yarn. I said, hairball. She replied in her 6-year-old exasperated voice with her hands on her hips, Grandma, I'm not a cat. Needless to say, I had to turn away again and cover my mouth to keep from laughing out loud. Hope you enjoy my story. Take care, Vicki. Yeah, isn't that funny? That habit of licking the yarn or the thread to thread your... I'm a thread licker. Guilty as charged. So I've you know, I have moistened yarn as well to put it through a needle as well. I will admit to that. And there is that kind of, you wish you hadn't done it. Yeah. Okay. This next one is from Mary N. And Mary writes, okay, Caroline, I do have one funny crafting story. Many years ago, I settled down in my chair to do some knitting. As I reached into my knitting bag, which had been sitting on the floor next to my chair, I noticed a funny smell. Uh-oh. I took my project out and took a whiff. It was bad. The cat had peed in my knitting bag. Oh no! I had to throw everything away, the wool, the notions bag, the knitting bag, all of it. Oh no. I told the cat that he was lucky he was cute and that I loved him more than I loved my knitting. He was not apologetic, but he was a lovely cat. Yeah, that is... Oh, we had a cat that did that. Before he was fixed, he would go into John's closet and he would go and pee in the corner of the closet, and there's just no getting that smell out of anything. It's just the worst. It's the worst. So Mary, I'm so sorry you lost your project, but it's a good thing your cat was cute. All right, should we tell one more story? All right, let's tell one more story. This one is from Elizabeth J. And Elizabeth writes, Dear Caroline, when I was young, my uncle passed away, leaving his work on our family history book unfinished. My mom wanted to publish it posthumously, but she needed help. So the summer I was 8, we went over to Nancy May's house quite often. She had 2 granddaughters about my age staying with her at that time, and we were expected to entertain ourselves while the grown-ups worked on the book. For the most part, this worked out okay. I don't know how many of your viewers were young American girls in the mid-80s, 90s, but if you were, you know Lisa Frank was all the rage. If you didn't have a Lisa Frank trapper keeper, now, I definitely had a trapper keeper. I don't think it was a Lisa Frank trapper keeper, but I know for sure I had a trapper keeper because that was the cool thing to have at school, were those trapper keepers. I remember that. They are binders. For those of you who are not kids in the 80s and 90s, trapper keepers were binders that were just, you know, that was just the name brand. They had a folding flap that had Velcro on it and whatever. At least I think I'm remembering what they were. They're definitely, can't exactly place them how they looked, but I remember everybody had them. If you didn't have a Lisa Frank trapper keeper, you had at the very least a set of Lisa Frank pencils or stickers that you used to decorate said trapper keeper. Ah, the 90s. Lisa Frank was a brand that was known for fanciful animals done in bright colors that I honestly thought was over the top even back then. I don't think it's in business anymore, but I could be wrong. Anyway, to keep us girls busy, my mom bought these Lisa Frank glitter kits. Uh-oh. They were the kind where you peel off the backing and pour the right color of glitter on the sticky part, and in the end you have a shiny picture. Nancy May set us up on the patio and went inside. Of course, it took us all of 15 minutes to do, with plenty of leftover glitter. Imagine 3 unsupervised 8-year-old girls with glitter. We put it in our hair, on our skin, and basically had one fabulous glitter fight. Then we went inside, trailing glitter as we went. We rinsed our hair in the kitchen sink, but that still left our skin and clothes covered in glorious sparkle. There wasn't much we could do about that, so we watched a movie on the couch. It wasn't until I was a few years older that I realized what a mess we had made of poor Nancy's house. I didn't see much of her after the book was published, so I kind of forgot about it. Then 20 years later, my mom and I ran into her at a craft show. She didn't recognize me, but I knew her right away. She had a speck of glitter on her cheek. Oh, Elizabeth on the couch covered in glitter. Oh my goodness. Boy, I think just like Mary's cat, it's probably lucky that you were cute. And a cute 8-year-old kid. Because boy, oh boy, can you imagine? Oh, glitter's awful. Glitter is awful. Just gets everywhere. Okay, that's it for me today. It is Friday afternoon. I had a big shop update this morning. www.evertote.com. All of the new Leo and Roxy flosses are loaded into there, as well as the Maple Leaf Canada bags. The Maple Leaf Canada bags are in there as well, and also a reminder that $5 Canadian from every single one of the Maple Leaf bags sold will be donated directly by me to the Native Women's Association of Canada. And that's it. That's it for me on a Friday. I have lots of work to do this weekend. Lots more, lots of everything to do. The house is, I don't even know where to start with this house because everything is everywhere in boxes, and my whole business is all over this house in preparation to move everything to the new space as soon as I can get in there. So it is it's getting difficult to find places to sit down that you know, that have a clear surface. So I'm looking forward to everything, you know, settling down in a few weeks. You know, once everything, maybe a little bit more than a few weeks. Who knows how long this is going to take, but boy, we are sure having fun. So, all right, it is Friday night. I hope you'll join us over on the Friday Off the Grid Facebook group, 6 p.m. your time, for 6 hours if you can manage it. Show progress pictures there of where you started, and then 6 hours later or 20 minutes later when you're finished, you can you're welcome to post a picture of where it ended. We post photos of our stitching on that group all week long. We don't just keep it to Friday, but things do tend to get a little busier on Friday night. Now, I am definitely going to be parking my backside in my stitching chair this evening, but it's been a full day, so I'm not quite sure that I'm going to get 6 hours in. My Modern Folk Embroidery Stitch Along, the Fruits of Plenty, I have ripped out the primary color. I started with the Hay Sailor and I was contrasting it with the Polar Ice. I've ripped out the Hay Sailor because on that fabric, the Polar Ice was more dominant than the Hay Sailor. And it was fine when it was under artificial light, looked great. But in natural daylight, the Polar Ice was far more dominant than the Hay Sailor. So I've actually swapped it out for Royale. So I will show you that on Monday when I do a proper floss tube video update. And that's it. So I'm going to try and put a few stitches into that tonight. Also, continuing on Miss Patty's cowl, working on knitting that cowl. So that's it for me today. Have a great weekend, and I will see you on Monday. Happy stitching, everybody. Take care.
Quick video tour of Caroline's Workspace. You guys have got a couple of coats on now of the new color. It's looking really good. Carpet's all up, so the wood can start going down, or at least the laminate on Monday, Tuesday. Everybody's been really working hard to get this place in shape. And the plumber's been working away. We're in here where a new bathroom's going to be put in. Looking good, lots of holes in the floor. I think that's a good sign. So making progress for sure.